Let's get right into it. Today, we're diving into the book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. Now, I need to establish right out of the gate, this is not some soft, fluffy comfort read. No. This is a severe, uncompromising orientation manual for the exhausted achiever. We're going to look at exactly what remains when the map you've been relying on completely burns away.
Think about this. You are not tired because the road is long. You are tired because your compass keeps waiting for better weather. We're tackling this head-on today because true self-mastery, well, it only really begins when your old route stops working. And that's exactly why this book belongs inside the UpGoWise framework. We are stripping away all the excuses we make about the terrain.
Okay, Section 1. Waiting for better weather. Let's dive into this false bargain we all make. It's this silent, sneaky deal we strike with ourselves, saying we'll become available for purpose, or courage, or meaning, only after the terrain improves. You know the feeling, right? Like, I'll finally live with purpose after the money steadies out, or after the inbox clears, or just, after life gets a little easier. But here is the reality check. Exhaustion becomes your identity when your mind treats pain as proof that the root has simply vanished. This book, Man's Search for Meaning, completely flips the script. It demands that we stop asking what life owes us and instead start reading the terrain to see what life is actually asking of us. Because more often than not, exhaustion is just a symptom of being misdirected.
Moving on to Section 2. Navigating by false roads. Think about the energy burn here. When we navigate by a false map, when we sit around waiting for perfect weather before we finally choose a direction, we burn massive, unbelievable amounts of energy. The mind literally burns itself out trying to navigate by roads it has zero control over. And in that process, it slowly, quietly erases the self.
We've all internalized this belief. Meaning is what I get after the pressure stops. I need space before I can be responsible. Honestly, it sounds humane, doesn't it? It feels like we've earned that space. And I really wish this weren't true, but let's look at where that logic actually leads us. If meaning absolutely must wait for better conditions, then every blocked road becomes a verdict against your life. Every single hard day is treated as failed evidence.
So we end up thinking our only choices are to just endure the hard terrain without going numb, or to seek some kind of escape without ever really becoming free. But Viktor E. Frankl identified this as a fundamental misunderstanding. It's a miscalibrated spectrum. You see, both of these choices actually give the terrain final authority over your own self. They leave you completely at the mercy of the map.
Viktor E. Frankl counters this with what he calls the will to meaning. This isn't some abstract concept. It's a specific answer demanded by life, a small coordinative responsibility. See, meaning often returns to us not as this grand, sweeping, cinematic horizon. Instead, it shows up as one thin, entirely unglamorous line on the map. It might literally just be a small duty done cleanly, or a single honest conversation. It's just you proving that your inner compass hasn't been outsourced to the weather.
Which brings us to Section 3, the compass in ash. This is your inner anchor. I want you to really hold on to this image for a second. A compass, lying in the ash. The road signs are completely gone. The sky is totally gray. The terrain around it is just destroyed. But the needle? The needle still moves.
There's this idea that suffering interrupts meaning, that once it arrives, the meaningful life is put on hold. But Viktor E. Frankl completely dismantles this using the core logic of his book. And look, he does not romanticize pain, not at all, but he insists that pain does not get the final word. The terrain can narrow severely and the horizon can entirely disappear, but that doesn't erase your inner direction.
The last of human freedoms. Let that sit for just a moment. This isn't a cheap, motivational quote designed to make you feel warm and fuzzy. It is severe. It is the power to choose your inner stance, to choose your exact response, even under the most extreme, unimaginable constraint.
You see, this book does not offer you flattery. Flattery says, oh, you can have any open road you want. But Man's Search for Meaning offers something much better. It offers dignity. Dignity says, even here, in the worst terrain, your response counts. It hands your compass back to you, and in doing so, it transforms responsibility from this heavy, crushing burden into the very first vital sign of life.
Section 4. Choosing inside the limits. It's about choosing your stance. Let's look at the exhausted performer for a second, the person who uses comfort as their true north. When that comfort vanishes, suddenly every single direction feels false.
And there is a severe, quiet cost to looking highly functional on the outside while being inwardly completely unmapped. Do you know the drill? You answer the messages, you hit the deadlines, you smile at exactly the right times, but inside, you feel entirely absent. This is the hidden cost of the modern achiever. A person can keep walking, keep performing absolutely flawlessly, and still completely lose their route. It's basically disorientation with really good manners.
So we arrive at another dilemma. Do you wait for the open roads before you start living with purpose, or do you choose one specific direction inside the limits you're stuck in? Now, while waiting feels totally reasonable because it kind of protects your hope, both of these choices actually reveal the exact same wrong map. They both assume that meaning depends on the width of the road.
Here's the truth. Weather is allowed to matter. Of course it is. But it is not allowed to become north. Remember what we said at the very beginning? You were tired because your compass was waiting for the weather to clear. To actually find your way out of that exhaustion, you have to protect the one single value the pressure hasn't taken from you. You absolutely must stop letting the weather dictate your direction.
Bringing us to Section 5, meaning precedes relief, the final integration. The absolute last freedom we have isn't loud, and it certainly isn't glamorous. It is simply a small, quiet inner turn before you take the very next step on your map.
This book completely changes the order of operations we're so used to. First, you choose your response. Doing that restores your direction, and only then do you actually find relief. Direction has to precede energy. Meaning is simply the thing that helps you cross the rough terrain toward relief without abandoning yourself along the way.
This is UpGoWise at its absolute sharpest, offering you true orientation rather than just adding to the noise. Visit upgowise.com for the next Insider Masterclass. Meaning precedes relief. That is the ultimate, unshakable takeaway of man's search for meaning. Let that single truth completely reorient your map. Next time you feel numb under pressure, pause 10 seconds and name the one direction this pain is asking you to protect.